Okay.
And work is how much energy that the outside force was
Okay. Okay. So we may or may not conserve within our system. And so we're usually clever about how we draw it when we want to conserve it. We make sure we include the things we need to, and then we can say, hey, it's conserved. And we can use our simple bookkeeping. You know, the number of beans we have before and the number of beans we have afterwards. Or think about money. Your total wealth, we're talking conservation. So let's put screen to everything. Your total wealth can be conserved. Now you might change whether in your savings account, whether you have it invested in a house or a fancy car or whatever. But if you draw your boundaries right, you can say your wealth is conserved. Now, supposing you don't draw the boundary so that the total remains unchanged. And now we have this distinction between our system and our surrounding. What does work represent? Talk to each other.
It's the stuff put in, but not
Stuff
outside.
added, I guess.
The outside force. It's like, yo, I'm help you.
Work. Does Dwayne look different to you?
No, she looks just as beautiful as ever. Oh, actually, you're right. She gets more beautiful every day.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Why you describe your wife?
What? That wasn't listening, I'm sorry. I don't stop.
But yeah, so what is the energy it takes to do the thing?
No, not that. What you just said earlier.
Okay, so we draw our boundaries in our system. We haven't managed to draw it in such a way, or the processes going on are such that we want to conserve control. What does work represent?
Is it force applied over a certain distance?
That's definitely a definition. Force applied through a distance. But in terms of our diagram, what does it represent? You can't say we've drawn our boundaries so that the total energy before equals the total energy afterwards, Alex. Okay. So what we've done then is say work is a process that transfers energy in or out. And we're going to evaluate it using that when we do it directly. Now, sometimes we've done it indirectly, right? We said, let's, for our roller coaster system, look at gravitational potential energy and kinetic energy. Oh, by the way, we'll together call that mechanical energy. And on our perfect one that we designed on the moon or whatever, we said that total was invariant. So if you know how far down you've gone, you know how much you've sped up. But then we get back here on Earth and we get to the bottom of the ride, we put our speed gun on, and we seem to have lost energy. The kinetic that we have at the bottom doesn't make up for entirely all the potential that we lost along the way. And so then we say our total wasn't conserved. There must have been work by friction. But did we calculate the work by friction corresponds to distance? We just said it had to represent the amount that we didn't conserve. So it can be direct, it can be indirect. And that's going to get to this problem that Emily was struggling with. And it confused me for a little bit. It took me a while to straighten it out because it mixes energy and work explicitly. And that's kind of annoying. But we'll get to that in a second. When we used our tall building and we dropped stuff and said, look how simple it is to calculate speeds from our equations of motion. We can just take our potential energy and convert it to kinetic. Divide it, we don't lose it. Is that the only way we could solve that problem? Or could we have used work to do it as well? Go back to our problem. Teacher falling off could we have done work to figure out the speed just before impact? So could we have done it without saying that there was conservation of energy? Could we have used work to solve this problem? Talk to the people at your table.
I think so. I'm just not sure how. I feel like you could figure out. You could figure out the mass. What? I'm trying.
Cows of energy.
Cows?
Cows.
Cows.
Cows. Well, I don't know the answer. So what do you guys think? I think the answer is no.
I think it's yes.
How?
There was a thing.
What then?
Like, we'd have the distance.
Yes.
Okay, so the way we originally did it, even though we didn't say explicitly how we were defining our system, but let's go back and look at it. Our system was the sum of the kinetic and the potential, the mechanical energy. And we get to the bottom and we say our system of kinetic plus gravitational potential energy is invariant. The sum, the total doesn't change. Now we may convert within from checking to savings, as it were, from potential energy to kinetic, but we said that that total didn't change. And then we work backwards with our definition of KE equals 1/2 mv squared, and we figure out a speed. Now, could we have done that? And as soon as she's done shooting her bar, she'll answer. But meanwhile, let's help her out. What about this table? Could we have done it with work? Yes. What would that look like?
The work is like the same thing.
So you're saying the work done. So we start with no kinetic energy. We got nothing. And you're saying we're going to do work on it and give our system kinetic energy. So basically our system here is only kinetic energy. That's the only thing in our system. We start with 0 and we end with some number. And we need to get that number through work. So take a moment to ask the people at your table, what is the force? What is the distance? Talk to each other for a second.
Force is mass times acceleration.
Yes.
And the acceleration would be gravity, right?
Yes.
And we know the mass because that's how you get the kinetic energy, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you do that to figure out the force, and then if you divide whatever amount of work by the force, wait, hold on. Then from the force, that I feel like you can do stuff
Then you're able
with
to
work.
find potential energy once you have the mass.
Yeah.
And that's energy for you.
But did we use the right thing?
Okay.
Maybe.
So what is the force? What is the distance? Dwayne, give me one. Even symbolically, don't give me a number, but tell me what is the force that we're talking about here?
Force.
Sorry? Is it the hand of God come in to, thrust me downward?
Gravitational.
Gravitational, right. So we'll say that, and what direction does that act?
Downward.
Downward. Okay. So we'll say here's the force of gravity. What's the other name we give that?
Gravitational acceleration.
Okay. So we have the weight, the downward force of gravity, and what will be the distance? The height. Okay. So whenever we fell here, h. Okay. So we'll say force of gravity times h. What's the formula for mg? mgh. Gosh, that's looking kind of familiar, isn't it? It worked out to be the same as doing conservation of energy, as you know it should. Okay? But we could have done it either way. Now, because work is a transfer, force is in this direction. And now we have to be careful about what we mean. Our movement, we're going to measure our height not from, say, a 0 to some height x, but we're going to say it's the distance along which we're moving. So now the distance and the force are aligned. So this ends up being, even though the number is going to be the same, the reason I say this is because this is now a positive number. That means our external force, gravity, did positive work on our system and put in energy into our system. We have a plus value. But for everything that is putting it in, something else was losing, right? So our gravitational field, our Earth, was losing the energy that was going into our book. We were taking it out of our book Earth system and putting it into the kinetic energy of our book. That seemed like kind of a strange idea? So, if an elevator lowers you at constant speed, don't worry about the business getting started, and don't worry about the business stopping. But say, for those 98 floors of the Willis Tower or whatever, where you're moving kind of at constant speed, is work being done? How do you feel?
I want to say no.
Because of like, when I got the question perpendicular to something, but then at the same time,
I don't know what external force would be, because I feel like it's just gravity.
Tension? Could it be the tension force?
it's not, no work is done because it's perpendicular.
Could it have anything to do with the tension force of the string that's like, yo, don't.
But wasn't that there from the beginning?
Yeah, you're right.
So that's not an external force. So,
It's because under specific, it was under, what's the word?
Free fall?
Specific conditions, like, yeah. Conversation.
So, during those 98 floors of constant speed, is work being done? He says there is work, but there's no net work. So when you say net or residual leftover work, what are you saying in reference to?
Since there's no acceleration, there is no force being applied to the object net, or there's no net force being applied to the object. But if you take, there's an equal gravitational force and tension on the
Okay. So he says the force of gravity, the weight pulling down, is being matched by tension upwards. So he says, although there are forces, and if you looked at the forces individually, each one is doing work. Collectively, there's no net force. Net force is 0, so the net work being done, in this case on this book or on that elevator, is 0. So one of them's putting it in, doing it positive, and the other's sucking it out and doing negative, leaving the total unchanged. The total transfer being 0. The total energy of the object unchanged. So which one is doing the positive work, and which one is sucking it out, doing the negative? Which one is trying to speed it up even though it's unsuccessful?
Which force?
Yeah, which force? Which one is doing work, positive work, trying to speed it up? Which force? Is that the gravitational or the tension?
For gravitation.
Okay. Because the force is in the direction of the motion, in the direction of the D, and that's why I'm not using H, right? It's in the direction, F and D are lines. So if this is our D, F times D is a positive number, and we would speed up if our tension now in the opposite direction, this product has to be negative, it has to be sucking it out. So the energy we're stealing from our gravitational thing is going into whatever's controlling that work. That's where they would use any of it. It's not in the elevator. The elevator is not speeding up. Okay. Likewise, if I lower this at constant speed, no work is being done on the book. The Earth is doing work, and I'm doing negative work. I'm taking it up. What the Earth is giving, I'm taking it. And you could probably see if I did this for a long enough time, my muscles are heating up doing this. It's going to become thermal energy, but it's not going into mechanical. All right, so now, if and you know what, I'm a teacher, I can make 10 majors. Just hold this book out for like an hour. Is work being done? By what, on what? Is there any movement of the book? No. So you can apply a force, but if it isn't pure distance, no work is being done. How about now? I take and I walk around for the whole rest of the period. Oh, he seems pretty confident. I would say that there's a significant V now, right? And I can identify two forces. I can identify my force and the gravitational force. Why is there no work, Ron?
He isn't in the direction of the other.
It's perpendicular. So, no work was done on the book. Okay? Again, you can say the actin and myosin filaments in my arm are going crazy. But as far as the book is concerned now, the D is at right angles. And it is either neither plus nor minus. It is just 0. So we're going to say here, I'm going to put this in to try to remind you, this means parallel. It's the parallel force of, parallel components, as it were, the force, whatever part lines up with the displacement or anti-lines and is negative. But if they're perpendicular, that is 0.
What happens if not an angle?
So, let's say I carry this down the stairs. But they're tiny little stairs, so it's not discrete. It's basically going down at this angle. Not too gentle. Was work done, and could you calculate that?
What? I want to say no, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure it's a yes.
Yeah. It's like, in your logic, it's no, but you know she's going to say yes anyway. My mouth has been on that.
I want to say no because I don't want to calculate. Okay, so,
You write your notes
so
on
the
your
force is
computer.
this way,
Literally.
and the motion is this way. How would you calculate that?
Can you without knowing things?
Well, we could do it by equations. We don't do
Yes,
specific.
times acceleration times, I guess, diagonal distance. Distance, half the distance. I don't know.
It's basically this.
What do you guys think? Work done? I've got my downward force of gravity. And we think back to our free body diagram. When things aren't parallel, anti-parallel, or perpendicular, when they're at an odd angle, what do? Sorry? Okay. So we'll draw our right triangle. Do I draw it like that? And say, here's the downward component of my force. Does that make sense? It's a right triangle. It's one of the sides. Does it make sense that it would be bigger than the force of gravity? Really? So then the fastest would be to make the slightest possible, and then my component, if here's my force of gravity, my component is huge. So in the extremist, I let it be level. I'll have the biggest component of gravity pushing this thing, the flatter it gets. Does that make sense? So this thing should just go screaming fast. The component of gravity should be practically infinite, but it's not happening. So, right triangles, yes, but that wasn't the right one. What is the correct one? There's just another one to be made. So instead of making this be the right angle, how about here? Okay? Do like that. Now I got a component down the hill, but it's smaller, and that makes sense. As the hill gets steeper and steeper, I approach full gravity. As it gets shallower and shallower, it goes to zero, as we know it should. Okay, so now back to this example, and let's say if this was 14 newtons, this happens to be 10 if you're like at 45 degrees. You shouldn't worry about how to calculate it. But I'm just saying, there's a square root of 2 here in the hypotenuse if this is an equilateral triangle. So I've got my 10 newtons down the hill, and I go down an appreciable hill, let's say like 100 meters. Does that mean that I did 1,000 joules of work? Not your deal. It seems like we're set up to complete that.
What?
Did we do 1,000? I'm not saying is it correct to multiply 10 by 100. That's what it seems to be. We've got a force of 10 perfectly aligned in the direction of a displacement of 100. The multiplying we got to get 1,000. 1,000 newton meters, 1,000 joules. But is that the right way to think about it? Was 1,000 joules of work done on the book? Put it this way, if 1,000 joules of work was done on the book, what would you see? What would you notice? Sorry? 10 newtons. That's a little more than setting a milk, your gallon of milk, but I think it can handle that.
I can't.
What has to happen? What do you have to see if we did positive work on it?
You have to see the force and the movement.
Can you see force?
Oh, yeah.
When you're riding in your car, you see the force of the engine? But what do you notice? When your engine, the engine road system does net work on your car, what do you see? You notice that you speed up. So the question is, was the book speeding up? So for the books, I should say gravity's 10 newtons, there was me holding it, and my component, again, was anti-aligned, I would be taking it out again. Again, the Earth is transmitting that energy to my muscles.
So where'd you do this? Like,
But it all comes down to the system, and we want to define the system to be the object we're interested in the book. So we can say work is being done by the Earth, work is being done by my muscles, but no network was done on the book. It did not speed up, it did not become kinetic energy.
but if you took the book downstairs, then work would be done.
Or how about this? How about I just let it slide down a really slick banister? It'll speed up. Then that component of Earth is doing work on our book. Now, it might be the full 1,000 if everything was greased nicely. It might be only 300 if there's a lot of friction, right? But we'll see the book speeding up. We'll know that some positive work, some net work is being done. Did you have a question, Evie?
Oh,
Okay. All right.
So with the angle, you're sliding it down the distance, do you have to like take the vertical distance for?
It's again the alignment of force and displacement. So you can take the component of the force in the direction of the distance, or you can take the component of the distance in the direction of the force. Either one's legit. However, it's easier for you to think about.
So the gravity, the force, you say like the vertical, like the triangle, you do it
Well, you know, you'd be using the full 14 now on the short distance. And doesn't this start to look like potential energy? So I always tend to do this instead of that because I'm right back to what I'm kind of expecting as if I was using conservation. Okay. Now, the tough problem. How many have done the energy relief problems? Like 40. Here's one she was having trouble with, and I stumbled on it the first time, so I sort of stepped back and thought about it. So here's the problem, and let's not do any numbers, but let's say conceptually, are we using conservation? Are we using work? And just be careful about how we define our system, because that's how I messed up the first time. All right, so Emily, you correct me if I am wrong. We have an object falling, and it falls some height. And then it hits the water, and the water does work on it and slows that object to a stop. And you know D2, and you don't know D1, and you want the sum of it. Okay. How would you attack? Oh, but we must know the speed. We know the weight.
And the force of the water.
We know the weight. We know the force. Now, if we're taking energy up and our ball is going down, our force better be up. Okay, so we have weight, we have force of water, we have one of the two distances where we get anything else. What's happening now? So, all right, conceptually, don't worry about the numbers. Of course, when you go to do it, you'll all have different numbers anyway. But I want to hear, what is your strategy? What are you going to apply to solve this problem? Talk to your table mates. Not just the four that have done it, but certainly take advantage of their expertise.
oh yeah. Ryan, do you understand? What are we supposed to be finding again?
Huh?
What are we supposed to be finding? This unlimited souls when it hits the water?
I think it was the sum of distances.
So solve this part first because we're given the force. Then I can do force divided by mass, you can find out how much is accelerating. And then that's just kinematics.
If you use kinematic equations, you have information.
Find this. And then get, by doing that, we have to sum of this. But I don't want to find this.
How do you do energy? Do you have another information?
Can you do anything if we assume the gravitational acceleration is still 9.8 outside of
We're given that. So now we can do this one. But you wanted to use the defined velocity.
You could find the acceleration here, but I don't know how that's
So
going to
we're
help.
missing something, right?
If you could
You
find
didn't need the
that.
height of the velocity, the velocity is that height. So this is tricky. I call this like the level 3. We've never.
Hey, Eden, can you set the force of the water equal to the kinetic energy? I mean, like, equal to the opposite of it?
Or not stop, but it doesn't stop, it keeps going.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the force of the wind.
Did I scare you? Oh, that's interesting. It's a tablet of sorts.
But you have all the information here, right?
Yeah.
So by doing that, you could
I
find the
noticed
initial velocity.
your
the
data,
initial
the force
velocity.
one is one I couldn't really make sense of for your impulse momentum. So I think you're probably looking at your data. But we'll be done here in about 5 minutes. I think Zoe's looking at
Once you have the final initial velocity of this, you're able to find the initial velocity. The initial velocity of this should be the final velocity of that.
Yeah.
Once you have the final velocity, you know this is already 0. By doing that, you can set it equal to this.
Okay, let's hear some strategies. What could you do?
Yeah, I think so.
Looking, hoping for some new volunteers. The same time. Yes. So we have this force of the water and the distance. Now, force is up and V2 is down. So this is going to be a negative when we do it. So whatever energy we had, whatever mechanical energy as we were entering the water here, we're subtracting it away and we're going to 0, right? So we'll say ME equals 0 here. And that's because we've done negative work. We've sucked it out. And we've got the force of the water, and we've got V2. So now, armed with that information, how much energy we took out, where would you go next? So, she says the PE up here turned into KE here, but if we assume that this was perfect, the same number applies, and why bother trying to figure out a speed here when we should have this? So she says, take this work, what we sucked out, and make it equal to what we started with here as potential energy as mgh. Now we've got this number because we calculate this, and they gave us that, and so the only thing that remains is h. And I would applaud her and I'd say, good job. And then, you know what? I messed her up. I messed her up. Because I said, well, wait a minute. The potential energy here is lower than it was there. So when you calculate this, H isn't D1. It's the sum of D1 and D2. I said, put that in your program. Of course, it's wrong. Put that in your program in 428? No. What was I confusing? I mean, does it seem right that, the 50th floor of the Willis Tower isn't 0? So we flood Chicago a little bit. Somebody falling off the top of the Willis Tower hits the water at floor 50 and sinks down. Why not the potential energy at the bottom? Why was it actually just to the surface? And this is a subtle point. I mean, you could do it and not be paying attention. I understand. But this is a subtle point. Talk to the people at your table.
Is it the whole thing that would be forced through the water isn't part of the system? Because it's external, I guess. Because it's slowing down after that. The thing isn't remaining constant. So it would only be to the surface because after that you kind of ruin the system. Because after that you add the force of the water, which adds the external force to the system. It's not conserving energy anymore. I guess. And then, so it only conserves until you hit the surface, and then after that it's slowing down, so the external force makes it not conserving.
Portion before it hits the water.
Hello?
And then from subtraction you have.
Okay, let's hear an idea. First off, my idea, it seems kind of plausible, right? You're actually going from the top to the very bottom down below. But somehow the potential energy doesn't represent that whole fall, only from in the air to the surface of the water. And why would that possibly be? True, you're absolutely right. But go back to our roller coaster situation. We said perfect situation. You take all that potential energy and turn it into a speed at the bottom, and then say, oh, but wait a minute, we aren't really going that fast. We're going slower. So there must have been friction. We were accelerating less than we should have. Did we go back and change our height? No. We used the full PE. So that seems to be one in my corner. But what's different about this problem? Let's go back to our system. If we are using potential kinetic, calling it mechanical energy, going the whole way, basically conserving it, we would say that our system had potential energy, gravitational, and kinetic. And that's certainly what we did with the roller coaster. We tried to conserve it, and then we said, okay, now friction can take some out. And we could try to conserve it and then have this work due to the water take some out. But I'm saying this doesn't even work. You have to stop the potential before the bottom. Why is that? It's subtle. I don't even necessarily think it's clear in this problem. What will we fight about in this problem? But you and I, we tried a bunch of different interpretations on F. What were the different interpretations on F? The wording is the water, or the, yes.
There's like buoyant force, and this was like the force of the net force of the water.
So I'm thinking, okay, there's buoyant force, there's frictional force, there's a bunch of different forces, and they're all added up, right? It says the net force of the water is what it says. Yes? So as I read it, it's the net force of the water. And if that's what it represented, then I'm right and they're wrong. But the answer suggests that this is net force, but not just a buoyant force, not just a friction. It's the global net force of everything, which means including gravity. And the minute we include gravity in the force, we can't have an energy associated with it. We're kind of mixing our methods. Okay? It's just like when we drop me off the building. I could do it through work, I could do it through energy, but I can't use both work and potential energy. That would have been wrong. Okay? And so if they meant this to be the net force of everything, then all our other energies stop here. And this becomes the only thing. The work represents everything. But back to what he was saying about total net work. Okay? Now, you guys are like, oh, who cares? But it is essential for solving those most difficult problems. Have I convinced you of that? And you're like, no, I just want to get on and doing it right. I get it, that's an experience. But here's one more thing that we need to clarify. Okay. We can, through work, I can, this book, I can give it potential energy. Through work, I can give it thermal energy. There's any number of things I can do with work. But when you do work, network, as Tyrone was suggesting, when that includes all the forces, you add all the forces there are, and you have network, there's only one kind of energy you can become. What is it? So I can keep it at your table. If you consider all the forces, this is the net force doing work, there's only one kind of energy you can create or take away. What is it? Go back to the very first day and talk about Newton's laws, talk about kinematics, talk about everything we've done. There's only one kind of energy we'll talk about the next course.
I thought you said Canada. Both of you said Canada.
What type of energy can you take?
He erased or potential, but then kinetic.
So, kinetic?
Or potential. What was, okay. Can you rephrase this question in a way that I can understand?
No.
Can you say his question in the way he said it?
No.
What was the question?
I'm pretty sure it's the only ones we know for kinetic and potential, right?
Huh?
Okay, what kind of energy can you get? The only kind you can get or lose through work done by a net force. That's two types. 50-50 chance, turn that one over. It can only be kinetic. You're either increasing or decreasing your kinetic energy. Why is that? Why is it that's the only thing you can do, Vincent?
Work is based on distance, and there can't be a distance if you have potential energy, because then there's no.
All right, I just did work and gave it potential energy.
Isn't that like afterward? So you did work, but once you stop,
So you're right. I do a little more to get started. I do a little less to stop. But when I work through that whole thing, gave it potential. But was this Was this largely equilibrium or non-equilibrium?
Equilibrium?
Yes. So there's another force, right? So when you say that there's a net force, it means you add up all the forces involved, and they don't add up to zero. You're not in balance. That goes back to Newton's first law, right? Unbalanced forces do what? Cause an acceleration. You have to speed up or slow down when you consider everything. Now, I can look at balanced forces and I can say this is doing work or that's doing work. But when there's imbalance, the difference, the net force, is only speeding it up or slowing it down. All right. Did I beat this one to death? All right. I'll turn you guys loose. The people I talked to, I think, definitely need to take some data. There's others that I think work to do on your lab, but I think you can still salvage. I think the information's there if you can pull it out.
How many times did we do this?
I don't know, but I think you
I didn't even try for that.
Okay.